Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Ask Mike. Ailey Weiss here alongside the one and only Mike Irwin. Mike, a very disappointing weekend for all Razorbacks basketball inside Bud Walton against Kentucky. We're just going to get right into the first question because that's where we're going.
A lot of questions about that, believe me.
Yes. Oh, yes. Let's just hit the ground running. So from Caltrain, who asks, why can't this basketball team come out of the gate strong every game? They're down by 10 or more before they even start to wake up.
A lot of questions about that, a lot of speculation. I think the best guess I have, and a lot of fans are talking about this, is Cal made this decision a few weeks ago to change the starting lineup, and he was going to include Nick Pringle in the starting lineup and Carter Knox because both of them hadn't been playing well, so you give them more playing time, you put them in the role of a starter, and supposedly it jump starts them. The problem has been, except for one of the games, I think, in that stretch, they haven't performed as well as Malik Ewing and Billy Richmond, who you would probably put in there in place of them. And a good example is in this Kentucky game, Richmond and Ewing outscored, well, Carter Knox and Nick Pringle scored no points.
Laid an egg.
Nothing.
Yep.
They didn't get any rebounds. They didn't have any assists. They did virtually nothing. Whereas Ewing and Richmond scored 25. So there you go. In the one time in this stretch that Carter Knox and Nick Pringle have started and have actually outscored the other two guys was the Vanderbilt game, and Arkansas got off to a great start. So that sort of suggests that if those two guys are scoring, everything's fine,
right.
but when they don't, you know, it's not good. So the speculation is now, with a week off, what's Cal going to do? And when they go back a week from last Saturday, when you come out and go to Mississippi State, are we going to have a new starting lineup? I guess we'll wait and see. But why would Cal do this in the first place? Why hasn't he made this change so far? I'm trying to explain this to people because I feel like I keep saying it. But to me, Cal's goal is not to win the SEC. I think he'd take it if it happened.
Right.
But I don't think that's his goal. I think his goal is to make sure that when Arkansas gets to the NCAA basketball tournament, all 8 of the guys are playing as well as they could possibly play. And if you've got 2 guys that aren't, you stick them in there and you play them more, trying to jumpstart them. So I don't know how long he goes with that if it doesn't work, but he said he still has faith in him and he's going to keep doing this.
Yeah, well, Cal also said after the game, he went up to Knox and was like, we're not going to win games without you. And then in the press conference, he's talking to us and he's saying, well, maybe Richmond deserves that starting spot, or if not more, that starting spot, at least a lot more playing time. So we'll see. They have the week off, reset.
They'll talk about this a lot, I'm sure, during this whole week of workouts without games.
Yep. Up next from Jimmy Hogg, he asked, what's up with the bad free throw shooting? Seems like it comes up out of nowhere, and I think we've got some head cases on this team.
There's actually only been one game where the free throw shooting was really bad, and that was the LSU game where they shot 38%. That was bad.
Yeah.
But they won the game, so it didn't get them beat. In this Kentucky game, they shot, what, 61%. Cal said, he pretty much said that really hurt him and helped cause the loss.
Right.
But if you look, Kentucky was only +3 on Arkansas from the line. So how does that cost you the game?
Right.
I'm still a little bit confused by that. And I don't think the one bad game shooting in LSU indicates that this team can't shoot free throws because they're shooting as a team something like 75% on the season.
Yeah.
So they'd have to have more bad games before I'm convinced that's an issue. What is really weird is in the last 2 games, Arkansas has hit 5 3-pointers in 2 games. Now they're averaging on the season 8.5 a game. So if they hit 8.5 or even close to that against Kentucky, they'd have won the game.
Right.
They made 3.
Right.
And that's just not like them. So what's going on there? I would be much more concerned about that if I were Cal than the free throw. But I mean, he's Cal, I'm not. But he seemed to be more concerned about the free throw shooting and didn't really have a lot to say about the poor 3-point shooting. I don't know what causes any of this stuff other than the fact that it just goes in cycles. I think
Yeah.
sometimes when you come out and miss a three and then another guy misses a three, then everybody's thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I think they're also behind early and they
Yep.
start shooting these threes, and when you miss, it just gets worse. And what you see with the other teams, like for instance, Kentucky, you get a big lead, 6-8 point lead, then you hit a three, then you hit another three, and
Right.
they all start going in.
Basketball's a game of runs.
Yeah.
So
It's a confidence thing, I think.
Yep, a big thing from this game, lots of technicals. So Tennessee Hog Wild says, after those 3 tees on Kentucky in a 40-second span, and the Hogs didn't capitalize on hardly any of it, the officials seemed to spend the rest of the game in makeup call mode against the Hogs.
Yeah, I think that was a huge factor in the game. And I'm going to have to read this because I can't remember it all. So I'm just going to read because I went back and looked it up. Okay, this was at about the 13-minute mark, somewhere in there in the second half. Kentucky got a flagrant 1 technical. Ewan shot the free throws, and he missed both of them. Arkansas was down 5 at the game, so after he misses those 2 free throws, they're still down 5. They inbound the ball. Acuff then shoots a short jumper, which is blocked, but Kentucky got another flagrant 1. So now Acuff shoots the free throws. He makes both of them, so it's down to a 3-point lead. They inbound the ball. Ewan misses a layup, but then at some point, right at that point, Mark Pope got a technical.
Yep.
This is a crazy sequence. All happened in under a minute. Acuff made both of the free throws, and Kentucky's lead was down to 1. Billy Richmond, they then inbounded the ball again. Richmond hit a 2, so the Hogs were up by 1. Eventually built the lead to 4, but then Kentucky came back to tie it up, and that's when Ewan got his flagrant 1, and that really hurt. And Cal talked about that. And I remember the color analyst on the game said when Mark Pope, I think Mark Pope got that technical on purpose. He doesn't usually do that. I think he said, okay, what I will do is get I'll get a technical from these officials, and then from this point on, I'll get all the calls. And that's exactly what happened. And the play-by-play analyst said Arkansas is going to have to be very careful at this point.
Yep.
Because if they even breathe on somebody, they're going to get a technical because it looks like you're handing the game to Arkansas.
Right.
So you don't do that to Big Blue Nation. And so it totally turned around. You not only, they reeled off 7 straight points, so it went from being a tie game to they're up by 7, and 5 of those 7s were just free throws. And the other was a 2-point shot, I think.
Yeah.
And Cal again said he had warned his players, probably during the timeout when Pope got the technical. He said, look, they're gonna really scrutinize you from here on out. You've got to be very careful. Don't foul.
Yep.
Don't even, and I think what they got caught doing was probably not fouls normally, but you bump somebody, you kind of grab somebody a little bit. And the next thing you know, these fouls start piling up,
Yep.
and they've got a big lead on you.
Yep.
And Arkansas was never able to come back from that. So I'm going to blame that whole thing a little bit on the officials because you and I have both gone back and looked at that first flagrant 1 against them. It just seems stupid.
Yeah.
And both of them did, honestly.
Yeah.
We didn't understand why they were calling these 2 flagrant 1s against Kentucky, and neither did Mark Pope, which is why he got his technical.
Yeah.
But then Ewan's flagrant 1 was definite flagrant 1. He comes down with the ball and just slams it off the guy.
Bounces it right off the guy's head. That's what the ref said when he spoke into the microphone at the arena.
Yeah. So there was no reason for that.
Yep.
This was a dumb play, a dumb thing to do. And it's not the first flagrant 1 he's gotten this season. Cal said he talked to him. He said, look, this is a chippy game.
Yep.
Guys are getting mad. You can't do that. You're going to have to fight through this thing and just play normally. And they weren't able to do it, and it cost them the game.
Yep.
So I'm sure this week, when they again have a whole week to practice, he's going to reiterate that over and over again. Don't lose a game because you lose your brains. You're still playing this game with your head too, not just your body. And don't get drawn into fouls that are unnecessary. Now, all teams do this. We only notice it when Arkansas does it, but other teams do it too. And I think it's a thing coaches fight all the time because it's an emotional game. Players are out there talking to each other. They go back and forth. I got you, no, I got you, and then next thing you know, they're mad at each other, they're shoving each other around a little bit.
Yep.
And you just got to not do that. I don't, we're not on the floor. It's awful easy to say when you're not out there, don't be stupid.
Yep.
But it happens over and over, and not just Arkansas.
And on the contrary, that once you get all those technical fouls, if you're Arkansas ball smart, why aren't you driving in the lane? Like, why are you pulling up for a three-point shot? You know the refs are whistle happy. Keep it going. Like, keep the momentum going in your favor. Acuff did try and do that and got the ball completely smacked away, but then they called another technical foul on that guy for taunting. So he had the right idea, but a couple possessions before that, they went down and took some threes or some long twos. So
yeah,
gotta have that in the back of your mind.
They didn't capitalize enough on Kentucky's technicals, and Kentucky really capitalized on Arkansas's fouls.
Yep. Well, we're gonna have to take a quick break here on Ask Mike. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back in to Ask Mike. Mike, this next question, you and I had a good 30-minute conversation in the room because
you actually called one of the announcers for CBS.
Yeah, I phoned a friend to have him go through the rule book because the research that you and I were doing, we couldn't come to any conclusion via the NCAA rules.
We still don't know for sure.
Correct. So from Marty Bird's proxy, he wants to know, was there confusion on who could shoot the 2 technical free throws which Ewan wound up shooting? The T occurred when one of Kentucky's bigs knocked down Acuff and appeared to jaw at him.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Thomas out there, you've got Acuff out there. Both of them are better free throw shooters than Ewan.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point it appeared what we were being told was that when this happens, the other team gets to decide who shoots the free throws. But that's only if the guy that was fouled is no longer on the floor.
If he gets hurt, if he's no longer able to take them.
And that's not what happened here.
Right.
So it looks like, and nobody asked Cal about this after the game, and probably no point in asking him now, but it looks like what happened was that Ewan had already made 2 free throws in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Acuff had missed a couple, and Thomas hadn't shot any at that
point. I believe
point.
Acuff was 1 for 4 at the line at that point.
Okay, 1 for 4. And Thomas, had he not shot any at all? Or I don't think he'd shot any free throws at that point. Yeah. Maybe he had, but it just looks like Cal decided, okay, Ewan's hit the only 2 he shot. We'll just let him do it. Now, he airballed one of them and missed the other. So after he went 0-2, he didn't shoot anymore of those technicals. They put Ewan or Acuff in there, and he made 4.
Yep. So
it solved the problem there, but that's what we think happened. It was Cal's decision, and he just went with his instinct. Okay, I think Ewan will be more likely to make this.
Yep. He's a streaky player, so 2 for 2 at the line, then you send him. Didn't work out in your favor.
He's been missing some lately. So, but again, Thomas to me was the guy that should have shot him.
Well, there you have it, Mike Irwin. All right, up next from Jake Stubbs says, I'd say the bigger problem is being the 60th in defensive efficiency. It's hard to win when you give up 85 points per game.
I don't think my impression of Cal after watching him for a season and a half here is that he's an offensive coach. That doesn't mean he doesn't coach any defense, because we've been to some of his practices when he does. But I don't think that's his major focus. I think his major focus is we're going to score points. That's what we do. That's what gets my players into the NBA, which helps me recruit. And I don't think that's going to change. Again, I think one thing that would help, and we haven't had it this year and we didn't have it last year because of injuries, Arkansas needs probably not 1, but 2 true bigs. In other words, 7-foot guys, 230 pounds, 240, guys who can really play defense down at the rim, down at the bottom of the paint. Because there are a lot of teams that are going right down there and going right up and scoring. And Arkansas right now is not playing good defense right there at the bottom of the blocks. So if you're going to, and I think most of us feel like, based on what Cal's done so far, he's going to bring in more guards and forwards, but he's probably at what you need to do at this point, the way this thing works, is you're going to bring in your portal people are going to be your bigs. Because they're older, they're more mature. You're going to look around and say, who really looks like they could help us? I think they felt like Pringle and Ewan were who they needed, and it sort of has worked sometimes, but they've been inconsistent. If they go out and get a couple of guys that can score, They don't have to be great at it, but guys that can score, but guys that can play defense, block shots without fouling, you know, cause you to miss without fouling. Somebody you can't bounce in and bounce off of them and back them down and then turn around and lay it in. Guy that will hold his ground. You get a couple of guys like that, and I think it will make a big difference in the defense. But I don't think Cal is ever going to change his philosophy of, oh, yeah, let's play defense like Eddie Sutton did. He's just a different kind of coach.
I don't think he's looking for anyone to have big guys down there that'll score double-digit points every game, but a guy that you could every now and then lob it down to them, take one power dribble and go up with it. Just show some dominance in the paint. And on the glass, they got out-rebounded by 9 against Kentucky. And then that ends up giving Kentucky a number of second chance points, which they converted on. So.
And if you have true bigs, I mean 7-footers with size that can go up and rebound, I think that makes a big difference and solves some problems that we're seeing right now.
Yep, exactly. Well, Kentucky Hog asks, do you have any tips for me after my Razorbacks lost to Kentucky? The people around me will be trying to drive me crazy until we play them again.
Okay, we're real familiar with Kentucky Hog. He's an older guy like me. He lives in Kentucky. He can't stand it because he's surrounded with all these Kentucky fans. But just from talking to his wife, because she does most of the talking, he's got my phone number, I'll let him call him. But I think what happens here is that he reads the internet, and he's an old guy, and he probably shouldn't, because I don't think he understands the internet. I said to him one time, when you're walking around a lot in real life, do Kentucky basketball fans come up to you and start giving you grief? He said, well, no. And I said, you know where they do that? They do it on the internet.
Yep.
And you need to
because they can hide behind a screen.
Yeah, and that's what happens. They do this on the internet, and you just got to know that and not let it bother you. Don't read it. Don't read that stuff if it bothers you. But if you're going to read it, understand what it is. Now, we posted on our website the entire post-game presser by Cal, right? And I was watching it. Everything he said. He didn't get upset. He was very calculated. Every question he got asked, what happened here? Why did you do that? Well, we weren't physical enough. We didn't hit free throws. We did this. We needed to hit more three-pointers. He just explained the whole thing in a series of questions of why they lost. Okay. The first question after that, when you got comments after that video, the very first one was this meatball Kentucky fan that said, there goes Cal with his excuses. There wasn't a single excuse in that press conference. He was just answering questions and explaining, yeah, we made a mistake here. That's not an excuse.
Yeah, what do you want him to say?
You missed three-pointers. You weren't disciplined on the technical fouls. You fouled too much. All of these things were just explanations of what we didn't do. And all throughout that presser, he kept coming back to Kentucky is a really good team, and they played really well, and they're very well coached. He's giving Kentucky credit. He's not, if you want to complain about a coach that acts like the other team didn't do anything. It was just, we should have played harder, we should have. He didn't do any of that. He gave respect to the opponent, and again, not one single answer was an excuse. And here's this meatball guy going, Cal, with your excuses. This is what you get on the internet. Okay, this is how I deal with it. I don't care. If you're that dumb, if you are that dumb as a fan, I don't care what you say, because I have no respect for you, because you're an idiot. I mean, you clearly didn't even listen to the press conference, because if you had, you would know he wasn't making excuses. He's just somebody that logged onto that, oh, here's a press conference, I'll get down to the bottom and just put my comments in here. And that's just a game they play. So, Kentucky Hog, you either learn how to deal with this or to stay off the internet.
Mike, have you heard of rage baiting?
Yes.
You know that's exactly it. That's
sure it is.
Exactly what it is.
But it happens at games too.
Oh, yes.
Listening
100%.
to one of our guys that went to the game, and he was telling me stories of this, where he got into it with this Kentucky fan and the stuff he was doing. And I'm like, nah, don't do that.
You just turn away, just walk away. Same thing that the players have to do, just block it out.
Yep.
Same. All right, from Razor Alex 88, he was at the Arkansas OU game, and he says, I never knew just how annoying the Boomer Sooner chant was until the PA lady was starting it, and all the more satisfying to get out with the win. I'm not that well versed with basketball, but I think we played better in the paint than we did versus LSU.
You know, a lot of Razorback fans were really upset about that game because OU was in last place, and they're going, well, here we go again. You know, blah, blah, blah. It shouldn't have been that close, and it did. Went down to the last minute. Here's the thing I saw in that game. This was another one of those games where the previous opponent had lost a really disappointing game before. I think it was maybe a buzzer beater. And OU's in last place. They know they're better than this. Porter Mosier's telling his guys all week, you can come out, we're at home, we will beat Arkansas, and then we will get rolling. So they've got motivation. Arkansas's just got to go there and play its game. And I thought, when you come out of a game like that with a win, you don't complain about anything because that's what you needed. Imagine where they'd be right now if they lost that game. So, you know, I thought it was a good win. I really did. I didn't worry about how close it was. A game like that, you don't care. You go on the road, it doesn't matter how close the game is. Just win it.
Yeah. That'll do it, I think, for all of our basketball questions. It's a perfect time to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back in to Ask Mike. I skipped over one accidentally, so we're going to go back. We do have one more basketball one because we didn't talk about basketball enough just yet. So Just Win says, we beat Kentucky in points in the paint and points off turnovers, but we lost the game on fast break points, which is a stat that we usually win.
Yeah, I mean, I think fans sometimes, if you go look at a box score, they always have these things down in the corner, and they have points in the paint, points off turnovers, fast break points, second chance points. And so it's real easy to look at that and go, oh, this is how we lost the game. That doesn't always tell the story. Where the big difference was in fast break points. That's where they really dominated Arkansas. Now, why did that happen? Well, some of it was a bad three-point shooting. You miss a three, they're going to have somebody going to the other end. You rebound that thing and you fire it down court, you got a layup. The other thing was, Ewan did this, Acuff did this a couple of times that I remember. He threw a bad pass cross court, it got picked off, and then you just boom, and it's right there to somebody, and it's a layup and dunk. So that was another problem in this game. Careless passes and missing three-pointers that got rebounded and tossed down to the other end. Those other stats were close that you mentioned. This one was not close. You know, this is where you really, really got yourself in trouble. But it wasn't the only reason they lost.
No, and you also had mentioned a couple turnovers by Acuff, and that was something uncharacteristic by him, which Cal also noted. And he told us he just wasn't playing like him against Kentucky. All right, now to football, for where Clint from Conway wants to know, what's your take on the university's new plan for adding money for the football team? Everybody seems to be attacking it, but I think it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I like it too. There's different reasons that different people have issues with this thing, and it's kind of complicated to explain. Let's just start off with what I thought was a very strange situation. They called this board meeting last week. I think it was early last week, and it was an online board meeting. And apparently 7 of the 10 board members had gotten together and come up with what they called a memorandum, which would allow the athletic department to have the money it needed to be more successful in the SEC. And let's go back to, we all remember when Hunter Yurachek said Sam Pittman didn't have enough money. And then all of a sudden, they put Petrino in there and they start talking about the future coach, whoever that is, and he said, he will have enough money. What I was hearing all along, well before Silverfield was hired, that they knew exactly how much money they needed to add to what Pittman had. Now, I was told he ended up with $6 million to spend on football, but he actually spent $7 and they let him do it. But now you're talking about adding $15 million more. That tells you what they determined. You need this much, but you need this much more to be sort of competitive with a lot of these other SEC schools. So apparently these board members got together and they created a memorandum which they say, if it's followed, Arkansas will be able to add $15 million next year. Now, I think that $15 million's already been spent. I think when they hired Silverfield, they told him, this is how much you've got to spend on this portal class and hiring coaches and all the stuff he had to do. And I think he's already spent that money. It's probably not come out of the bank yet, but it will have to eventually. So I think they don't have any choice but to raise this. This is my impression. So now we get into the nuts and bolts of how they expect this to happen. Well, going all the way back to 1975 when I got here, I was astounded to learn that Arkansas not only was self-supporting athletically, because I'd been in other places where athletics gets money from the students. They have a student activity fee, and it costs, so you got fans buying tickets, you got TV revenue, and you got this student activity fee, and that's how you fund football. Arkansas didn't have a student activity fee. Not only that, but they committed, I think it was something like 4 or 5% of their budget of whatever they earned, they gave back to the university. It was a kind of a good faith thing to Frank. It was his way of saying, here's a reward to the academic side, it's a reward to the students, the faculty. This is what I'm doing for you. And I thought it was a great thing, and it was very popular. And that thing amounted to about $4.4 million last year. Well, what the board said was, we're no longer going to do that. We're no longer force you, and that had to happen. Frank doing that in his time was fine. He didn't have to pay players like they do now.
Very different game.
That's where you start when you got to raise money. You don't start giving it back to the university. You can't afford to do it. And again, almost nobody does that anymore. There are schools in this state that don't do it, other smaller schools that have collect a student activity fee. So you're going to not give that money back. That's $4.6 million that you'll have next year that you didn't have last year. All right, then the guy directing this meeting the board member turned to Chancellor Robinson and he said, I'm directing you as the chancellor to come up with a way for the university to put $6 million into the athletic fund next year. You got a month. We're going to come back and revisit this month. You think about it. Tell us how you're going to do this. Now, this was widely viewed as a way of saying to him, you're going to have to start charging a student activity fee. What would that amount to? About $175 per student. Well, tuition for in-state students and tuition for kids from Texas right now is $3,300. That's insane. That's so low, it's unbelievable. That's the best bargain you're ever going to get. And so you're going to tell me that this suddenly puts a huge burden on the students by adding $175 to an already, it's like somebody telling you, I'll give you this steak dinner at this fancy restaurant for $5.95, but you're going to have to pay an extra dollar to to some fund or something. Going, okay, I'll do it. It's no big deal. So I think they'll do this, and I think it's well past time for it to happen. So all of that would raise about $10 million, about 10 and a half. Then he turned to Hunter Yurachek and said, in a month, I want you to come back with a plan for the athletic department to raise $5 million more. And so what does that mean? Well, nobody knows what it means. But when you put that together with what we're hearing from fans who have student tickets, and it's all over the internet. I even have a friend that has student tickets, and I was having dinner with he and his wife. My wife and I were having dinner with them the other night, and he was explaining to me that his tickets are going up a lot, and he doesn't know if he's going to hang on to them. Hogville, there's a discussion. There's 3 guys that pooled their resources several years ago and had the money to put, what you have to do is you have to make a donation to get a skybox. And then you still have to pay for each ticket that goes to the game. Like how many tickets you get with that, I don't know, but you got to pay for those too, and they're not cheap. But you start with a donation. And he said 2 years ago our donation was $5,000. Last year they doubled it to $10,000. This year it's doubling to $20,000. This is what's coming. Now nobody should be surprised by this because this is what Hunter Yurachek did in baseball, and then he did it later in basketball. And we've had all these people complain, but what happens here is you raise the ticket prices. There are a certain number of people that give their tickets up or go sit somewhere else. Who buys these high-dollar tickets? Who does that? He gets corporate people to do it. And I don't know who it is. I'm just going to use Walmart as an example. I don't know if they do it or not, but if you're Walmart and Arkansas goes to you and says, well, you won't give us $3 million, but we've got all these tickets. Will you give us $3 million for these tickets? Yes, we will. Now, why would they be more likely to do that? Because that gives them something that they can turn around and give to their employees in good faith, and it makes the employees happy. So if that's what it takes to help fund this thing, I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, but it may be the only way to do it, unless you can find people that are just willing to give you that money. But some people object to the idea and are saying that Hunter Yurachek's not doing his job, that his job as the AD is to have the ability to go out and raise that money, to have the kind of relationship with boosters where you go to them and you say, hey, our football program is in trouble. We got to have this money. I need $4 million from you. I need $6 million from you. And he hasn't had that ability to do that. I'm not prepared, because I'm not there every day, I'm not prepared to say this is his fault. Some people are saying that. Then they're also coming back with this stadium naming rights issue, because the naming rights to Razorback Stadium have been on the block for about almost 2 years now, and he hasn't found anybody to do it. I was told that he even tried to do it piecemeal, get this booster to do part of it, and this booster to do part of it, and this booster to do part of it, and they would put their names all around the stadium, so collectively 5 or 6 different boosters would do this. They're clearly going to have to get a corporation to come in and do it, but who is that? And can he do it? And he's being criticized by fans who say he should be able to do that, that's his job. So we'll wait and see if he's ever able to do that, but that hasn't happened yet. Then you've got something that's going to come your way from the NCAA. They're going to allow 2 logo patches on each jersey, 4 by 4, won't be too obtrusive, but they'll be on the front of the jersey. Okay, can you find 2 corporations that are willing to pay you for that? And what are they going to give it to you? What's it going to cost? We got to find out if he can do that. We do know that he's also, because he's already started this, he's going to increase the use of renting out the various sports facilities to make money out of it. And this banana ball game I think it was last fall, at Baumwalker Stadium, it was full. It was like there were like 12 or 13,000 people there, and they paid a lot of money, and I'm sure the people that ran that tournament paid Arkansas a lot of money to rent that stadium for the night. There's going to be some events coming into Reynolds Razorback Stadium. They'll have concerts, maybe even concerts at Bud Walton. So he can use the venue, and Frank never wanted to do this, but he didn't have to. I think Yurachek has to, and I think he's perfectly willing to do that, so that's a way they can raise money. But again, what we don't know is whether he's going to get the naming rights done, and we're not sure about these ticket prices, how much of what he's going to have to raise, which is $5 million, how much of that is going to come by just raising the ticket prices. I don't know. So we got a month until they go back before the board again, and then when they do that in a month, we'll have a lot more answers to this. But that's my take on what's happening. I think a lot of people were kind of puzzled by the fact that 3 of these board members voted against it. They didn't like it. They said they needed more information. 7 voted for it. So what was that all about? This is my take on it. I think that there have been people, and we've talked about it on this show, there have been people saying all along, Hunter Yurachek's out. We had people saying he wasn't even going to hire the next coach. Okay, he's going to hire the coach, but then he's going to be gone. Well, he's not out. And if he gets a 7-3 vote on this thing, that tells me he's still in. And that's my take on this, that these 7 board members are saying we're going to protect him, because look what they did. They didn't give him a choice. They didn't give Chancellor Robinson a choice. They didn't give Yurachek a choice. They said, do this. Do this. And the real onus is on Robinson. He's got to come up with $6 million that Yurachek doesn't have to raise. I think that's their way of protecting Yurachek. I think that's their way of saying, he's our AD, he's not in trouble, you do this for him, he's going to be fine because we're going to raise this money. We'll see.
Yep, couple more answers, hopefully coming within the next month after that meeting. That was a long-winded answer for Mike, so we're going to give him a quick break. So we're going to give him a quick break. Stick with us after the break. Welcome back in to Ask Mike. Mike had a breather. He's ready to go. We're going to keep firing questions away. So CLTNC Hog says, Arkansas needs a true fundraiser, preferably independent of the AD, whose sole focus is donor relationships and NIL. Someone like Houston Nutt would be ideal, but David Basil might fit as well. Fans feel disconnected and uninformed, and yet they feel like they're bearing the financial burden. Do you see some disconnect, and what do you think Arkansas is missing?
Well, what most people would tell you is what Arkansas is missing is Frank Broyles or a Frank Broyles type. What does that mean? It means somebody that knows the so-called Razorback way of doing things. This whole period, starting with Jeff Long and going to Hunter Yurachek, a lot of fans, Dan Hampton, who's a former Razorback, he's in the NFL Hall of Fame, played here on one of the first teams I covered. I had an interview with him 4 or 5 years ago, and he called these guys carpetbaggers. And what is a carpetbagger? It's somebody that comes in from the outside and tells you how you should do things. And that's the view of Jeff Long and Hunter Yurachek from a lot of the fans. You came in here from another place, and you've come in here and told us the way you've always done things is not the way we're going to do it now. We're going to do it this way, and it's better. And I think what the fans want is an athletic director who will say, you know what, we're going to do things the Arkansas way. So what is the Arkansas way? It's when you want money, you don't just call somebody up and say, hey, we need money. You develop a relationship with them. They like you, you like them. And when you ask them for money, you talk about why you need the money. You explain to them.
Give them reasons, help them understand where their money's going to be going.
We're in a bind here. You need to help us. We're really in bad shape. Could Houston Nutt do that? He could do it in his sleep because I've always said Houston Nutt could sell popsicles to Eskimos. He's just he can sell anything. The problem is apparently they haven't asked him to do anything. What about David Basil? I haven't talked to Baz about this, but I'm not sure that's something he would want to do. He's got his own career in radio in Little Rock, and he works with a television station there too. And I think he's happy what he's doing. I don't know that he would do that. Tim Horton is another name that is mentioned. Tim Horton is an assistant coach at Air Force. He played for Arkansas. He briefly coached here. And his dad was Harold Horton, who played under Frank, coached under Frank, and ran the Razorback Foundation for a number of years. Harold Horton was a master fundraiser. And I think a lot of people feel like Tim has his ability because Tim is a super nice guy. And he knows all these people. So he would be a guy that could go to a booster and say, hey, we really have a problem here. Let's go out and have dinner and we'll talk about it. And the next thing you know, he's got $6 million from somebody. So this is what people are saying. Is it accurate? I got no idea. Is there somebody out there that they could hire that would do this and make it happen? I don't know. You'd have to do it and try. But right now, it doesn't look like Hunter Yurachek is interested in hiring anybody like this. I think there are people like Houston Nutt that would want to do it, but there's no indication that he's going to do that.
Well, remember when Silverfield was first hired and he was brought into the
we haven't heard a lot about that lately.
Right. It was he came out. It kind of came out with a bang, hit the ground running, but then it's kind of fizzled out.
I don't know how much of this money he's raised himself. I think he's got to coach the football team.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be up to him to do this. But again, we're not sure how this is going to work moving forward. I just don't see Hunter Yurachek taking this suggestion of hiring somebody and saying, okay, you're just going to be a fundraiser for me. You got fundraisers at the foundation. If they're not doing their job, get somebody else. Now, if you hired them at the foundation and put them there and you felt like they could do it, that'd be one thing. But so far, again, it doesn't look like he's hiring anybody from the past. And that's not unusual. A lot of people that come in new, and he's not new anymore, but they come in from the outside. They don't want people that have always been here and everybody knows them. They don't want to let them enter the system because then they think they might undermine them. You know, I don't know. I just know that there's a lot of complaints about that stuff.
All right, up next from Hank Ten Hog says there's been some effort to rehabilitate Houston Nutt's image at Arkansas. I'm unaware of him ever owning up to mistakes at the end of his coaching tenure at Arkansas. Are you aware of any comments by him expressing regret or any apologies?
I'm not aware that he's ever addressed any of that. That was a very controversial time. It involved Gus Malzahn and Houston Nutt, and a lot of people felt like some of the players, Mitch Mustang, Damian Williams, Ben Cleveland, and some others got undermined in that situation. They felt like, you know, you had people thinking Mitch Mustang and his mom were trying to run the team, and they wanted Gus to be the head coach, which was nonsense. But it was a very controversial period. And my own involvement in that was I covered that as best I could. But there are always things that you don't know, and you're not going to be told until it's over. And I mentioned Harold Horton, and I'll bring this up. Harold passed away about a year ago. Great guy. But about 3 or 4 years after this was all over, I was at one of these right before two-a-days press conferences where they have a golf tournament. The coaches are all out there. The media is all out there. And there's a meal and all that stuff, and then the coach has a press conference. So Brett Bielema had his press conference, and I was about to leave because I didn't have time to play golf. And Harold Horton was under one of these big tents where they had all the food. And everybody had left, they had eaten and gone off, but he had arrived there late, so he was eating. So he invited me to come over there and sit down with him, and we started having a conversation. And he explained to me everything that happened during that period. And he told me about a plan to make Houston Nutt the athletic director. There was a plan by some of the boosters because they knew John White, the chancellor, was trying to move Frank out, trying to force him out, trying to retire him. And they knew that he couldn't do that forever, so they felt like Houston Nutt was the perfect AD. And they wanted to try and convince him to do that. They bring Gus Malzahn in, let him be the offensive coordinator for a few years, then he becomes the head coach, and Nutt becomes the AD. Nutt never wanted to do that. They were trying to pressure him. When I found all that out, my attitude about Nutt really changed. They were trying to take this guy's job away from him.
Which is exactly the situation that you were saying Yurichek might be worried about, which is why he doesn't want to hire anyone from the past either.
Exactly. So, you know, I understand why he reacted the way he did, and I promise you, Malzahn was not blameless in this stuff. So I look at it a little differently now than I did back then, and Houston Nutt called me up almost a year ago. We had a conversation, the first decent conversation we've had in a long time, because he used to be so mad at me, he wouldn't even talk to me anymore, just grunt when I asked him a question. So I talked to him about all this stuff. We kind of got it worked out. And he told me, I said, are you coming back? Because he's moving back here, is what he said. He's living in Texas, and I said, are you coming back here to do something? Is something going on? And he said, well, he just felt like maybe there would be a role for him fundraising. Well, if you saw this thing on the internet about 2 weeks ago, he was quoted as saying, he came back and was inducted into the Hall of Honor, and he said Yurichek talked to him briefly during that ceremony. He said, other than that, Yurichek's not said a word to him. He said he's not been asked to speak to anybody at Arkansas. He hasn't spoken to Silverfield. And he said I think his brother's on the Missouri coaching staff, maybe as a basketball coach. And he said Eli Drinkwitz, who is from Alma, Arkansas, invited him to come speak at Missouri. So Houston Nutt has spoken at Missouri, but not at Arkansas. So I don't know if that's going to continue. I don't know, again, if that Basel thing is going to turn into anything. I don't know if Tim Horton would come back here. I have no idea if any of that will work, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen right now.
Up next from student's mom asks, is it right for me to be forced to help fund U of A athletics when we are not sports fans? My son goes to the U of A to get an education, and tacking on a student activity fee for sports onto his tuition is a bad idea.
Again, I've already gone across this. You're getting a bargain already. You're getting tuition so much lower than at most schools like Arkansas.
Yep.
You can afford another $175, I promise you. I got to believe there are people out there all over this country that if you told them there was a major university you could go for $3,300 a semester in tuition, they'd be jumping all over that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, if you don't like it, go to another school, because here's what's going to happen to you. You're not only going to pay about 3 times as much in tuition, but they're going to hit you with a student activity fee as well.
Yep.
Because there's
Every
virtually
school has
nobody out there that doesn't do that. So you can get upset all you want, but the bottom line is this has been a gift to students and parents for decades, and it's going away, and it's not going away because Arkansas is selfish. The athletic department's selfish. They don't have a choice. In order to remain competitive in the SEC, they've got to raise money, and they don't have a lot of options.
And that one is,
Oops.
got it. And that's one that I think is going to be enforced from here on out.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
JFred59 wants to know, is it true that all of the football trophies and such are in storage? And who makes the call to bring them back?
I think most of the older trophies are in storage. Now, I think a lot of the newer bowl trophies and trophies that the football team has gotten over the recent years are over there on display in a trophy case in the Fred Smith Center. That's the Football Operations Center. Unfortunately, that's not open to the public. You know who's going to see those trophies? Parents of students that are being, parents of athletes who are being recruited to come to Arkansas, whether it's portal or high school or whatever. That's what that's there for. They don't allow the public just to walk in the building. There is a kind of a Hall of Honor type thing. If you go into the Broyles Center, the doors for the Broyles Center on the first floor, the north side of the stadium, they've got what they call the north end zone parking lot. Anybody that's ever driven by there knows where that's at. You get out and you walk into those doors on the first floor. I think there's 4 doors there. You walk in, you've got somebody at a desk that's running that room, that reception room. If you want to go anywhere in the Broyles Center, you have to pretty much have an appointment. Yeah. You tell that person, I'm here to talk to this person. They got a key fob. They'll take you over and put you on the right floor. They'll push the button for the right floor. You go up there, you talk to the person, you come back down and leave. However, off to the right as you come in, there is a corner that's kind of like the Hall of Honor. And there are a few trophies over there. I'm told that they are the Broyles Award trophies for the various Broyles Award winners over the years and the Burlsworth Award winners. So you could go view those. When are these other trophies? Like in the old Broyles Center, they had a big museum on the second floor. And that's where you had a lot of cool stuff. Steve Creekmore, a photo of Steve Creekmore, who was the first great quarterback in Arkansas, 1908, 9, and 10, right in there. He led Arkansas to an undefeated season. Big picture of him, a lot of stuff about him, just different memorabilia, jerseys from ex-players, All-Americans, trophies, bowl games that going all the way back. The national championship trophy was on the first floor of the Broyles Center and right through the main entrance. They had a cabinet or a trophy case reserved for that. I think there was the Cotton Bowl trophy where they won that year, won the national championship, and there might have been a trophy for the Outland Award winner, which was Lloyd Phillips in 1960, I'm gonna say 5, he won that. So that all was there. That as far as I know, all that stuff is in storage. Is it gonna stay there forever? I don't think so. But here's one way it can happen, and it's going to cost some money. If you look at the Broyles Center and you're standing in front of it, there's that what I call the snaggletooth gap. And Jeff Long did this on purpose. I don't know why he did it. Fans talked him into it. But they built that to the edge, and then they allow this big gap where if you're coming down Stadium Drive or across and you look down over that parking lot, you can see through to see to the stadium.
Yeah.
How many football fields do you know? Name me a football stadium, a bowl-type stadium, where you can see inside from outside. Is that important? I don't think it is. Here's how you could do that, though. If you come out from the edge of where it is now, the Broyles Center is now, and go out and cover that gap up and build a 2-story museum, then you could go into that entranceway I talked about during the week. You could go through a merchandising shop where they sell all kinds of merchandise. Hog related, and then you could go on into the museum. It would help you sell. People would be coming in there to go through the museum. It would help sell merchandise and make those, the south side of that building all glass. So you could go up on the second floor, first floor, look at all these trophies, and then you could see down to the field. That would be your way of seeing that. And then on game day, you've got the wild band of Razorback hog statues with the fountain and all that. Just to the right of that, you've got gates that fans go through. You could still go through those gates, and you could go then right through the doors to this museum and go in there and look around on game day and then go down to your seats. This would probably cost $100 million to build this, the way things are right now. Should they do it? Absolutely. It would make a great addition to what they have. Someday they'll do it. There's just not the money for it now. So I guess those trophies are going to remain in storage until they can get a big facility to display them.
Maybe you were an architect or like a interior design mastermind in another life, Mike.
I couldn't do it myself, but I could talk to an architect.
You have the ideas. It's there. You just need someone to do it.
Tell people how I want it built. Absolutely.
There you go. All right. From Hill Country Hog asked, is the baseball team still stuck practicing inside because of this weather? Seems like this week's warm-up, they could clear the snow off the field and practice outdoors, but with all the warm weather, it's going to get a bit muddy.
Yeah, okay. Here's the answer to that. Right now, the field is still covered with snow. Now, the infield has been covered with a tarp, so you could take that off, and there'd be no snow, and it wouldn't be wet.
Okay.
But the problem is the outfield. And Dave Van Horn said today at the Swatters, said on Monday at the Swatters Club meeting, they're going to let that dry out naturally, melt naturally. So that could take a couple of days. When it does, they're going to allow another day or two to let it drain properly so that when they go back out there, it's not all muddy and they tear the grass up. My guess is by maybe Thursday or Friday of this week, the team will be back outside practicing. But they do need to get outdoors. I mean, start of the season is about 2 weeks away.
Yep, 11 days I counted earlier today. Okay, so last one, we're kind of breezing through these last few. Hog Rugneck says, so we have another football speedster who is also running track in his first meet, and he beat out the other college runners, some of those his former teammates transferred from LSU. Will he end up like the guy last year who turned pro in track without even seeing the football field for us?
Yeah, he's talking about Jordan Anthony, who came here from Texas A&M. He was going to play football, but he ran track first, was so good that he ended up being the athlete of the year in college track and field, and then he turned pro. So he never played football. I don't know what's going to happen to this guy. I do know that he apparently ran a faster time than Jordan Anthony in his first meet. So he's fast. He's really fast. Maybe he wants to play football a little more than Jordan Anthony did. I don't know. But he's got a decision to make. I wouldn't expect to see him out there this spring. What's going to be interesting is if he goes through one track season and then maybe comes back next year and decides to play football.
That's your prediction?
You'd have to pay him some money to get him to do that.
Yeah.
Because he can make money as a pro in pro track.
Well, he's got the speed. There's no question about that. That'll do it this week for Ask Mike. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday.